going to talk a little bit and explore a little bit the rib cage. Now, this might seem like to be an odd thing to be playing with, but in reality, so many people hold tension and grip through the rib cage as a compensation for limitations through the shoulders and the hips and the neck. And it sometimes can be surprising to people that they are actually doing this. So we're going to explore a little bit, really gently. We're not going to try and rip anything wide open. It's just more about helping you to connect your limbs to your center and your center to your limbs. So then the idea is that you're breathing better and you're feeling better and you're just more grounded and just peachy keen. So that's what we're going to be doing today. You're going to need a strap, 2 massage balls, a block to sit on, and a roller. You may also need a blanket for under your head if you're lying on your back and you just need that support for your head, okay? So we're going to be mostly on the floor. The highest we're going to get to is in sitting. So that is where we're going to begin. So grab something to sit on. It's really important to do that because we don't want to have your pelvis kind of in one of these positions where you're kind of in this, and you don't want to smush down here between your ribs and your pelvis. So we can create shortness by just doing something like that. I'm kind of exaggerating it. Or you can actually slump, right? So the spring can become unloaded, so to speak. Like even those slinky springs, I'm dating myself, but how they smush down, we want to not have that happen. So when you sit up on something, even if you can sit on the floor, if you can sit up on something, it just makes it a whole lot easier. Okay, so let's begin with a bit of breathing. So just easy, easy, easy. And first of all, I mean, for me, it's 5 a.m. So I'm just checking in with how my breathing is. For you, it might be 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. So just notice how your day or your sleep has been with you and how you have been with your sleep or your day. All right, and just notice the feeling that is you. So just a few quiet breaths to begin, all right? So just settling in. If you want to close your eyes, do that. And just take a pause. Okay. And so just notice how much breath happens to be in your belly and how much is in your rib cage. Now see what's interesting is before breath was breath, it was air sitting boop, right here. And then a vacuum occurs, whoop, and it comes through your nose, turns into breath somewhere along that magical space, and then it does its thing going through the lungs and then back out again. But here's what's interesting, is how your rib cage expands has an impact on the amount of air that comes into your system. So when you're really tight, think about someone, and this might be you, who has asthma or has any other breathing condition. What you'll see as a pattern amongst those people is that there's tension in the neck or tension in through the ribs. There's a limitation, right? And which comes first, the chicken or the egg? To me, that's not important. What I have noticed is when I can help those people become more supple through here, they breathe more easily. Yeah. So let's just take that in. Now we're going to take a side bend. Really think about keeping it as a side bend. You're going to come, a little bit of weight's going to come over into the side you're leaning in toward, but don't let your hip come weight off the block. So you can still feel the sitting bone on the block, even though a little bit of weight has come over into the side. Okay, good. And then we're going to come back, and let's go to the other side. And notice, like you're shortening this side where you're leaning toward, but notice if you're kind of slumping. Right? And do your best to think like there's a beach ball and you're you're leaning over. But you're not like breaking it this way. You're not letting the ribs come out. It's just this easy side bend. So then as we come this way, I want you to place a hand here if you can. And then breathe into the side of your ribs. What's really interesting about ribs, there's a whole field in physiotherapy, or in the States they call it physical therapy, that's based off of your thoracic, what they call your thoracic ring. So each of the rib circles, and how getting stuck in any one of those can have an impact. Now, I've never experienced it myself. I just know that it exists. It's sort of a cool idea. So this is why it's so interesting to get awareness into your rib cage and how this rib basket is. Yeah? So let's take the hands forward now. You're going to round forward, but not like you're rounding, but try not to slump, and feel what the back of your body feels like. And then let's take the hands in behind, and without like, with those ribs, just let those arms come in behind you and think about this part of you. Okay? Okay, good. All right, so now the hands come here. Now we're going to do some neck stuff. So you're going to turn your head one direction, and then wherever you go, you're just going to nod your head. Now as you're doing this, you want to pay attention, and we're going to turn the other way, that your shoulders aren't going with you, right? So you're not doing a side bend to do this motion. You're just rotating your head, and it's all through your head and your neck. Okay, good, and then come back. One more. Good, and then other side. Okay, good, and then come on back. Now we're going to take the ear towards the shoulder. Okay, now watch what happens to my chin, although it's not, you're going to notice my chin, but it's my whole head that's moving. So now I'm just rotating it in that angle. So I took it, so instead of rotating it up here, which we just did, we're going to take the ear to the shoulder and rotate it there. Go slow, easy breathing. Okay, good, and then come up, and then other side. Okay, so again, as you're doing that, this part of you is hopefully not moving. Okay, now take a look at this. We're going to take the ear to one side. We're going to rotate, okay, and then we're going to lift up, okay, and then we're going to take this ear. We're going to rotate, and then we're going to lift up. Yeah. So it's like we're doing a figure 8, but do your best to keep this in your neck, in your head, and not in your torso. And if you need to come back to one of these ones where you just nodded your head or rotated your head this way, like your neck this way, then do that. This is just adding a little bit of complexity and maybe a little bit of fun. Okay, good. So now see where you're at. All right, take your hands. Let's do a little bit of movement through your rib cage, the upper rib cage. Inhale, and just exhale. And then move all the way in around the rib cage. This can be really effective when you've got somebody else around you that you can kind of get in through the back of you. But as you're doing this, make sure that you're exhaling air out, and you can do that through your nose or your mouth. Okay. Good. And then let that rest. And now notice what you feel. Okay. So now we're going to take this guy. We're going to bring the strap over. And so that the buckle is lying over one shoulder, and then the other one's going to come across. And then over it goes, like that. And it comes across. So if I flip around for you here, we just created a figure 8. Okay, so the buckle I had here, you can see the buckle's there. Now I'm just going to flip it into the back a little bit so that it's more on the back side here. Okay. And then we're here. And what you'll notice, because this will be a little bit snug, but not too snug that you feel blood coming into your hand, like your blood, like there's a heaviness in your hands. And the fluid can't get back out to the center of your body. So now just get a sense of these guys moving back. Now, I find sometimes that there can be a focus of, oh, you know what, my posture's really bad, I slump forward, I've got to bring the shoulders back. I want you to think this in a slightly nuanced way, which is your arms connect into your shoulder girdle, and you've got this coracoid process here, which is part of your shoulder blade that comes forward, and it sits at right about here. You can't really feel it unless you're a body worker. On ourselves, we can't really feel it. But the idea is this strap is helping pull that back, but it's also helping connect you to your limbs. And again, now feel your breathing. And we're going to start to do a twist. So really easy. You can have your hands here, or you can have your hands in your ribs and just let yourself move here, like so. So the rib cage is moving. The twisting is a function of your obliques being the engine of the twist, right? So we're not using the arms in this, but I also want you to notice how much you're kind of, if you're kind of doing to make it happen in your rib cage. So keep the rib cage level. Watch that you're not side bending this or laterally shifting this way to make the twist happen, or even lifting those ribs up, but I don't want you to knit them in either. I want you just to leave it easy and then just keep it in that plane. And notice if there's any tension that builds in through your rib cage. Good. And then keeping it level. Something else I want you to notice is your legs here. So sometimes what can happen is we'll move and then like a leg will lift or the pelvis will move. I really want you to notice, like, all this is this piece here. That's all that needs to happen. When you get all this extraneous stuff in, that's a compensation. So really allow for your obliques to do the work they need to do. Allow your ribcage to settle out and just sit on top of your pelvis. Okay, good, and again. It's so easy to kind of like go to make it happen. But see how I'm now breaking? I'm breaking in through my movement. All we need to do is rotation. That's it. Not a forward bend, not a back bend, not a side shift. So you begin to see how subtly, when we miss these things, which obviously can happen, it makes sense why we get into the predicaments that we do when we do exercises and yoga and Pilates and these little things. Like, we don't think that they're a big deal, and they aren't really, but when you start to become aware of them and you get the nuance of your movement, you begin to realize how powerful it is to pay attention to how you move, because your strength becomes very effortless to grow, because your underlying coordinated movement patterns are a lot more efficient, and that's what helps build strength quickly. So then you're building strength on top of a really, really settled and simple, straightforward foundation. Yeah. And then you become more relaxed overall, right? Because you don't have this undercurrent of tension that you're building the strength on. You're not building strength on top of tension, right? You're just easy, right? You're easy, yeah? And you develop a strong body and your face is not like, which we can sometimes see with some people in fitness, right? Okay. So with that, if you've got your 2 tennis balls, this is might be kind of funny. You're going to take one tennis ball underneath your one and then the other one under the other. And watch that this didn't happen, right? So that I don't want you to all of a sudden sit in like this. I also don't want you to all of a sudden pull the rib. I don't want you to pull the shoulder blades down either, right? All you've done is the shoulder joint was the articulating joint, and then the arms are they're just resting in the armpits. And easy. So you can see I'm sort of fiddling around with them in terms of how they sit. They're just kind of sitting in the armpit area. Now we'll be here for just a little bit. There we go. Just easy, easy breathing. Looking at myself in the camera, this looks very funny. Easy, easy, easy. And then take those out, and now just be, and notice if there's anything different. So for me, what I notice is that there's just a little bit more breath in through the these middle layers of ribs, and there's just this sitting up taller that I find myself doing. There's a subtle something. There's just a subtle something in there. Okay? So now we're going to take these balls again. We're going to lie on our backs. You're going to need the ball as well as the strap, and you might need your blanket. Okay? And so we'll have that handy. Okay, however big or small yours is. Okay. So you're going to you can have these in, sometimes these balls come in a little mesh bag. So you can keep them in the mesh bag, and you're going to put them on either side of your spine, and you're going to start right at the bottom, like where the opposite of your breastbone. So for women, it's basically where our bra straps is. That's where you're going to start. But the idea here is you're going to now move over top of those. So you can see how I'm back bending over top of them. But now some of you might find that this area of your body is really limited, and that's when you need to place a blanket underneath your head, right? And so if you're only coming to here, then what you might need to do is place the blanket here. Now, also just might be too darn much. So if that's the case, you can always lie on top of a roller, which we're going to do momentarily. You always can do on a roller instead, okay? So here, or what you can do is just follow along with the strap part of the exercise with me, okay? Okay. I don't want you to back bend in a huge way through your ribs and flare your ribs. That's not really the point, but I also want you to be comfortable, and of course I can't see you, so I can't give you instructions based off of not seeing you. Okay, so we're going to take the strap here now. I'm going to raise and lower your shoulders like that, yeah. And then keeping those elbows where they are, the articulating joint's going to be your shoulder. You're going to take the arms over your head. Okay, good, just a couple. Okay, then you're going to roll up one roll or so, And you're going to bring yourself back again. Now, typically, back to the arms, typically there's a point here for people that's a little bit more tender. Okay, then roll up. Okay, and then one more. Okay, lovely. Okay. And then you're going to come off of the ball. Now, if you found that that was just too much, you always can do the movement without the balls. You can also use smaller ones, or you can use the spinal strip. Like I said, we can also use the roller. But wherever you are now, just notice yourself on your back without the balls underneath your back, and just notice what you feel. Okay, so now, one more for the balls. We're going to use one of them, and you're going to find the shoulder blade here, and where this is the lateral side or the outside edge of your shoulder blade, coming in around towards your armpit. Okay, so you've got rotator cuff in there, you've got lats, you've got serratus anterior. We're going to place the ball right in that area. Now, if you kind of poke around a little bit, you'll feel a few little tender points. That's where you're going to go. Okay, so we're going to bring that down. Whoops. You're going to be here. Okay, and just be really, really easy. You can move that arm and that blade into, like the blade into retraction and protraction if you want. Yeah. You can kind of roll over so that you're rolling over top of this shoulder joint, right? The thing is you just get to kind of find the areas that make sense for you to work with. Yeah? Yeah. And then see if you can just feel your rib cage, and if you're bracing it all in your rib cage or in your neck. Yeah. And then just take a breather for a moment and feel the left and right sides now. Like, it's really interesting, hey, how, I'm going to go to the other side, how we have these patterns in our body. And they're very supportive in terms of helping us get stuff done, but they're woefully inefficient. Yeah? And so when you can start to become aware of what's going on in here, and then improve the way your joints move better, then you'll start feeling better a lot more frequently and consistently. Right? I see it over and over and over again. People who have pain that come and see me, over and over and over again, that there's compensation patterns, and that when we clear them up, then they start to recognize what's contributing to the way they feel. And that's a huge, huge insight and aha, which opens the door to possibility, you know? Because so many people believe it's just the way it is. But one of the reasons is because so much of what we do is symptom relief. It's not actually resolving the problem that is. Yeah. So symptom relief, come on up and then line your back. Symptom relief is important. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's important when there's issues. You want to have some symptom relief, but then we have to look at the next step of like, okay, so there's symptom relief. Now we need to retrain our patterns, which is what we're doing through this process that I'm teaching you. And so we're using these little balls to help you become aware of and notice what's happening in your body, and then we can actually change up how it's moving. So if we're here now in a tabletop, we're going to keep the hips where they are. We're now going to bring the arms out, right? So your arm, that is the movement. The primary articulating joint is your shoulder. Of course, your elbow reached out as well, but you didn't arch your back to get there, right? So you're here, you bring that arm out, okay? And then bring the other arm out. Okay, so this didn't happen. And if it did happen, you don't correct it. You just come back and you bring the arm out as far as the ribs didn't feel the need to flare. You don't grip with your ribs. You don't need to weave in or knit in your ribs. And then slowly move through your hips and your shoulders. Okay, then take your left hand underneath your elbow and then do the same thing. You can even rest your forehead on that arm if you want. Okay, and then other side. That one comes down. And then just be aware of what's going on in your rib cage or with your breathing. And the other piece that's also important is it's like, notice why you might push through stuff. Yeah, like just notice why you might do that. Like, what is it about needing to push through that's fueling you to bypass what your actual range of motion is? Because we all have something that will cause us to do that, right? And for a lot of people, it's because they need to feel a stretch or they need to feel something, and there's something in their brain that's saying that's what's good, right? We all have that, right? So if you can notice what that is that's driving you, then you can start to recognize what it is that's pushing you to solve the problem that you think exists but actually doesn't exist. It's not the problem that is, right? And so then that's why you keep solving the problem that isn't, not the problem that is, right? Because we have this thing in our brains that are saying, I've got to have a stretch sensation, or I've got to have a strengthening activation sensation. I'm not saying those sensations are wrong. It's just that they don't necessarily give us the data that is the accurate data that we need. Yeah, so here I am. And then we're just going to move the arms over this way and side bend. My hips are staying on my knees. But I'm like you. I think everyone who's following this loves a juicy stretch. Absolutely. But here's the distinction. I don't use the juicy stretch as a measurement of myself doing anything good, right, or wrong, or bad. It's just a sensation. Okay? And then come on back and come forward again. So it's good. It's lovely. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But it's not my measure. Right? And that's really, really, really important. So then what you need to grow is your awareness of what is important. Okay, let's come back to the strapping onto your block. And that's where growing your awareness becomes really important. Yeah? Is what do you need to pay attention to? How can you solve the problem that is, rather than circling around the problem that isn't? All right, so now we're going to take this arm to the side. We're going to bring it back. So the articulating joint is here. Now we're going to bring this back, and then now the elbow, or sorry, we're going to rotate first. Let me back that one up. All right, arm comes out, articulating joint. Arm comes back, articulating joint. We're going to rotate, articulating joint at the shoulder. And now we're going to bend the elbow behind. Okay? We didn't do that motion. We're just here. And then arm comes up, articulating joint at that elbow and on the shoulder. Okay? So now you've got the idea of what the articulating joints are, right? Did you do any of this to get in there? Did you wiggle your way into the movement as opposed to moving at those joints? Yeah? Okay. So now when we come on out, bring the strap on over to the other side. Now, okay, look, this is that articulating joint. Be aware of that. And now you've got the camera in front of you, which is so brilliant. So you can see if you're doing that or if you're doing this. You can see if you're doing that or you're doing this. So what was moving? Now you can also probably get a sense if you're holding those ribs as you bring the arm back. And then you're rotating here at that shoulder. The arm, the rest of the arm is following. And then the elbow bends. Now when you start to bend that elbow, did you do that? Right? Just pay attention to that, right? Now initially, I know, there's a lot to pay attention to. Good, and then arm comes up. And then go. So little bits at a time. Little bits at a time. The thing here, what's also important, is you don't have to reduce all the compensation and eradicate it. Good Lord, no. If you've been following me enough, you'll see that I got my own stuff. I got my own compensations, my own shticks, for sure. We're all well compensated for the life we want to live. Yeah? It's when those compensations don't work for us anymore, and we have pain or strain, or we aren't going as fast as we want to, and maybe in a run, or we're unable to climb the stairs we want to, or there's something that's maybe a goal or an outcome, or there's just something in the way of what we want. That's when we pay attention to, maybe these movement patterns I have are not really serving me. Maybe there's a better way to move. So it's not about getting rid of them all. Compensation is good. If we didn't compensate, we wouldn't live. All right, so I want you to feel, right? But we can always improve how we move if we want to improve how we move. Yeah, because our nervous systems and our bodies are very plastic. It's just, what are we paying attention to? It's so much lies under our level of awareness. Yeah? All right, so now notice here how you are in your ribs. How does your rib cage sit on top of your pelvis? Let's take you into a twist again. All right, so how is that moving? Good, and then how is that moving? Okay, all right, now from here, let's bring the roller out. We're going to sit up on the roller, thumb on one end, and here you are, like so, and then you just get to lie back like so. Now this, where your arm is, so if you were just in Shavasana, your arm would be right opposite your shoulder. Now you're into a bit of extension, so this might be too much. So if you need to place a blanket under both of your arms, then you can do that, or you can come off the roller too and just lay back, or you can lie on a rolled mat or a spinal strip, or you decide. Yeah. The most important thing is that you can find comfort and you can find some ease. And just pay attention to that breath in your rib cage. How is that breath in your body? Two more breaths. And then come on off. Good. And you can either lie back on your back, or you can come back up into seated. We're going to finish up here. So you choose. Good. And be easy here in your breathing, okay? Now, if you want some more help, if you want to uncover some of these movement patterns that you're not really quite sure of, you can't quite feel, and you want another set of eyes, send me a note. Either my email address or a direct message. Send me a note, and we can get onto a Zoom call, have a chat. Let's see how I can help you. So wherever you are now, just notice what your breath is like in your body. And here's something I would love for you to do. If you're feeling better, like if you're feeling better than you did when you started, you now have a new normal of what good feels like. And you also know what not good or even what crappy feels like. So if you're at this new normal of what good feels like, over the course of the day, I want you to notice when that good starts to fade and you start to move into the non-goodish phase. You're not quite at crappy or bad or not good, but it's no longer at this level of normal. See if you can pay attention to that. So that the idea here is that it's not like you come to a yoga class and then you go about your day unaware, burning up the energy, and then you come back the next day and like, okay, now I feel better. I mean, that's one way to live. But why not, just for an idea, why not build the stamina around feeling good? Why not build the stamina for feeling good so that you feel good more of the time than not? Yeah, and that's what I can help you with here. So if you can pay attention to what is contributing, and then how can you intervene? Right? What support do you need up in this arena to enable you to feel good for longer? Yeah? Because then what happens is you feel less crappy, and then good becomes your new baseline, and then you can grow to another level of good. Yeah? And then so you go. So pay attention through your day. You might notice little whispers, you might notice little yellow lights while you're doing your work, or you're helping homeschool your kids. You might feel those tensions start to increase surreptitiously, all of a sudden opening up into your space. And maybe you just need to step away and breathe or twist, or maybe your kids are getting underfoot and it's like you want to go outside and scream. Then do that. Yeah. What do you need to support you? Maybe you just need to get out for a walk, or have a glass of water, or a really good cup of coffee. Whatever it is. Ice cream. Whatever it is. What do you need? Listen to the whispers so you don't have to hear the screams. Have a really, really good day, and we'll see you in the morning.